pursue a path that where Christ is not. And we set up our little cultural idols, be it money, be it pleasure, be it entertainment, be it some particular vice that we have a fancy for. And the flesh, it lures us off of the path to make disciples and to be disciples. It lures us away from the darkness, just into the shadows, just a wee bit, by a degree or two, not a 180-degree jump off into the cliff, but just depart from Christ's mandate just a tad. And the church loves the world every much as the world loves the world. So what's our plan? What's our 5-year plan at Grace Community Church? I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. And I know that doesn't necessarily instill volumes of confidence in the leadership, me or the rest of the elder team. And don't get me wrong, we know the what. We do. We know the what. We know what we're called to do. We know what the Great Commission is. We know what a disciple looks like. We know what it means to be fully devoted to Christ. We know the gospel. We know what it means to teach, to obey everything that Christ commanded. We know these things. We know the what. We know the what. We know the what. We know that we're to take the gospel to our neighbors. We know that we're to take the gospel into the workplace. We know that we're to take the gospel to the campus. We know that we're to do this. We know that we're to do that. It's a question of how that we're not sure. We have ideas. We have ideas. We have plans. We have strategies. We have goals, but I don't know. Sometimes we second guess ourselves. We're not sure. And is the need of the day really a better plan? Seriously? If we had a better plan and a nice brochure that laid out and mapped out exactly what we plan to do for the next 5 years, would it really matter in the grand scope of things? If Peter had a plan when Jesus ascended into heaven, what would have happened next? And by the way, I know some of you that are systems people right now, you're shaking your head and you're just like, gosh, Brooks is just he's so administratively challenged that he never sees, he never understands that you need goals, I get all that. I do, I really do. I challenge you to read the New Testament from cover to cover and find the emphasis on the plan, though. I really do. You won't find it. The emphasis is never on the plan. The emphasis is on the power. The power and the person of Christ as revealed by the Holy Spirit. That's always where the emphasis is. There's so many questions. We know the what. Make disciples. Bring in, build up, and branch out. For those of you who are not familiar with that term, if you've been to Getting to Know Grace, that's kind of how we frame the Great Commission with 3 B's so you can actually remember it. But for all of our slogans and all of our seminars, that doesn't actually make and produce disciples, and it doesn't fulfill the Great Commission. And it doesn't bring glory to Christ necessarily. The question is how. We have so many questions. How do we become a movement instead of a monument? How do we become a self-replicating organism that reproduces itself and not a Christian mall that feeds the needs of Christian consumers content on doing nothing except being entertained on Sunday morning? We have all sorts of questions. We have all sorts of people questions. How do we, as we become a church that's growing past a church of 1,000 people, how do we become personable as we grow? As you come here, you you walk in and maybe you know people, maybe you don't, but the visitors, they come in and they've never met someone, and most likely they'll leave here and they will have never met any of you. You can't tell a person who's been here for 6 years from the person who's been here for 6 minutes. And this isn't unique to Grace Community Church. The apostles faced this at Pentecost when 3,000 people were added to their number. Boom, right then and there. This is not a new phenomena. This is a result. It's a good thing. It's a result of people coming to Christ. But how do you grow physically and remain personable? How do you provide an opportunity for hundreds of people to connect who are not connected at all? They come in here alone and feeling cold and hearing the gospel and feeling warmed within their hearts, but leaving here and not having a human connection with another believer. That's not acceptable. What do we do logistically? We make strategies and we have plans, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I don't know, to tell you the truth. How do we equip you as individuals to become fully mature, devoted disciples who are appalled at the idea of becoming consumers and who see your role as being an equipper? How do we equip you to equip others? To go beyond, it's time to come to church and drink my coffee and listen to the gorilla spit, preach, and cry before I go home. How do we do that? I don't know. How do we multiply leaders at a rate faster than the growth rate of this church? I don't have answers to those questions. I mean, I think we have some strategies, but, we try some and they fail. And they yield little results. You see a little bit of fruit. And then it comes back to the question, are we trying to produce fruit or are we just bearing fruit? No, I really don't know. I don't know. We don't know. Some of you that are visiting this morning are thinking to yourself, Brooks, if it was your goal to sell Grace Community Church as a church that knew what it was doing and you wanted me to come back, you're failing miserable. That's not my goal. It's not my goal to get more people that are Christians that are leaving other churches to come here to see if we are the next biggest, shiniest church for you all to come here. That's not the goal. The goal is, how do we equip people to become fully devoted disciples of Christ that burn inwardly to serve Him and glorify Him in their community to take the gospel to the ends of the earth? And I don't know how to do that. I know what it looks like. I'll know it when I see it, but I don't know strategically, and we don't know strategically exactly what we're supposed to do. And then there's facility issues. We don't have any more space. We don't have any more parking. How are we supposed to create more space? How are we supposed to create more parking? How and when should we meet? Well, if you don't have more space and you don't have more parking, we'll just add another service. Okay, when? How do we do that? Do we have services all throughout the week? Do we just stagger them? Do we put them all day Sunday? Do we just keep adding services? 1 service, 2 service, 3 service, 4 service, 5 service, 6 service. Do we just add on? I mean, we got space in the back. Do we just keep pushing? Maybe we double the size of the sanctuary? Double the size of the parking lot? How, when, and where should we meet? Do we start satellites? Something that we've talked about and we think we'd like to do, but we're not sure what a satellite actually is or how to do it because none of us have done it before. And where would we meet if we did satellites? Then there's my favorite, or